Hello, my name is Otis Landerholm. I'm an immigration lawyer. I fight for the rights of immigrants who are hoping to stay in the United States. And today I want to talk about what the options are. What are my immigration options? What are your immigration options? Many people come into my office and they ask me just that question. Do I have an option? Do I have a case? If you're not sure what the options are, I would hate for you to pay for a consultation and spend your time with my office to come in and to then learn that you don't have an option. It saddens me when that happens. It's a much happier situation when the folks that are in my office know what their option is and know that they have a case and are now ready to go forward with it, rather than coming in and then paying money and then learning that that really they don't have any option available to them. So that is why I wanted to create this video, to just sort of explain, okay, look, what are my options? The problem with it is that every person is different, and so it's sort of impossible to know for sure what your specific immigration options are. And also it's impossible to give legal advice like this through a video camera, because I haven't heard your specific situation, and I don't know your specific goals, and I don't know really where you're coming from. But so none of this is immigration legal advice. Rather, I just want to throw it out there to explain what the big picture options are, so that it's worth your time and it's worth your money to come in and to really get better advice as to whether or not you want to go forward with something. Okay? So what are the options? Basically, the first step in evaluating what your options are is getting to know you. All right? And when I say getting to know you, I mean getting to know your history, to see whether or not you've triggered what the law calls inadmissibility, or a quote-unquote deportability, or whether you're accruing unlawful presence, things like that. So I need to get some facts from you, and really what I'm looking for is, there's a whole bunch of kind of red flags that are quote-unquote immigration sins that can cause problems for an immigration case. It doesn't mean that you don't have any options, but I need to be aware of them in order to know which option is more recommendable, or in order to know whether or not you have options. So some of those issues, for example, are whether or not you have any criminal history, whether or not you've ever crossed the border without permission, whether or not you've ever been deported or in immigration court before, whether or not you've ever lied to the U.S. government or misrepresented something to the government for the purpose of obtaining an immigration benefit, whether or not you've ever helped anyone else enter the country without permission, whether or not you've ever lied to the U.S. government saying that, or not just to the government, whether or not you've ever lied saying that you were a U.S. citizen before, whether or not you've voted in the U.S., whether or not you've had anything to do with terrorism, of course, or with doing harm to anyone else. Each of these can cause problems for an immigration case, and I need to go over them with you, and that's actually the first step in every one of my legal consultations, is to go over those kind of nuts and bolts facts, and to go over the red flags, and to make sure that we're all on the same page as to where you are at, and whether or not the immigration options that we're looking at can resolve any of those issues if you have them. Okay? So once we figure out where you're at and what your situation is, then the options as far as what laws can we use to either get you a more permanent status in the United States, or whether or not we can get you any status whatsoever in the United States, then we can be much more, clear about going through each of them and seeing which options may work and which ones won't. Okay? So once we know that situation, and once we know your situation, then what we can do is go through kind of step by step the other options. So what are the other options? First of all, they're visas. Second, green cards. Third is asylum. Fourth is removal defense. And fifth is U.S. citizenship. So we'll talk about each of those in a little bit more detail. All right, so visas, there are lots of different visas. A visas for ambassadors and diplomats. B visas are your standard tourist visa for visitor visa for business or pleasure, and on down the alphabet, you know, all the way to U visas, I think is the last one, and then VAWA. There's no Z visa yet, but pretty close. Okay, so the visas that my office handles are basically three. Okay, we do B visas for tourists from overseas who want to enter the U.S. and have had trouble getting the B visa to come and visit their loved ones in the U.S. We do fiancé visas, which are K visas. Okay, so if you're the fiancé of a U.S. citizen, then you can enter the U.S. for the purpose of marrying that person. And we do U visas. U visas are for victims of crimes in the United States. Okay, so if you've been the victim of a crime, and if you've called for help and you've cooperated with law enforcement in the investigation of that crime, then you can be eligible for a U visa. All right, so those are visas. The next immigration option are green cards. Basically, if you are the spouse, the parent, or the child of a U.S. citizen, and I should say the sibling as well of a U.S. citizen, then you can be eligible for a green card through that relationship. All right. Depending on what your relationship is, it might be a very, very slow process, but you know, for spouses, it's actually a much quicker and much more straightforward process generally. All right. Also, if you're the spouse or the child of a green card holder, then you may be eligible for a green card based on your family relationship. Okay? There are also green cards that you can get through asylum or that you can get through U visa status. And so it doesn't have to be based on family relationship, but often what we do is family-based green cards. I'll also say that there are employment-based green cards out there. My office does not do them, but we can refer you to offices that do employment-based green cards on a regular basis. Okay? The third big option is asylum. Asylum is for people who are afraid for their lives to return to their home countries because of serious persecution that they would face in their home country. And another big issue to watch out for with asylum is there's a 1-year filing deadline. So you have to have filed your case within 1 year of your last entry into the United States, or within a reasonable time of some significant change, either in your home country or change in your life. Okay? So yes, if you have a fear of going back to your home country, then we could talk about an asylum case, and we have a whole separate video on that topic as well. Okay? The fourth big option is removal defense, so deportation defense. If you are in immigration court, okay, there are options that are available to you that are not available to anyone else. And I'm not going to go through each of them right now. I will maybe touch base on cancellation of removal because it is an option for people that are in immigration court. And that is if you've been here in the United States for 10 years, if you've had good moral character for 10 years, and if you can show that you have a child or a parent or a spouse who's a U.S. citizen or green card holder who would suffer an insane amount of hardship, exceptional and extremely unusual hardship, if you were deported, then you could win a green card and you could win your deportation case. All right. There are other options available to people in immigration court as well, depending on which part of the process you're at and depending on your individual circumstances. And so regardless, if you're in immigration court, you need the help of an attorney. So feel free to call my office. We'd be more than happy to help you with that. Then there are other options as well. So I want to talk about DACA. DACA is an option for people who are young, who entered the country before they were 16, and who were younger than 31 years old as of June of 2012. Okay, which is when the DACA program was initiated. DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It's a way, it's not a visa, it's not a green card, it's this sort of other status, and it's a way to get papers, get a driver's license, social security card, work authorization for people that are in that situation, that arrived before they were 16, that went to school in the United States, that don't have any criminal record, or that don't have any significant misdemeanors or felonies on their record, and who are otherwise eligible. If you have questions about DACA, we have a separate video series on that topic, and feel free to watch that, and we'd be happy to help you with that as well. Okay? So the other options that really are out there are, first of all, it's perfectly okay, and it always is an option. I don't know if it's a wise one, but it's an option to do nothing, right? And to sit and wait for immigration reform to happen or for some sort of immigration-related emergency to happen, right? If you're out of status, then you are deportable, and the government could knock on your door any day and take you to immigration court. The wiser option is, and the last option that I'll discuss, is to be prepared. Okay, so if you don't have any option other than maybe waiting for immigration reform or waiting for some immigration-related emergency, then my recommendation is to be proactive and to actually have all the documents ready so that if immigration reform happens, you've got all your documents in one place and you can file your case. Or if you are picked up by immigration, or if something bad happens, that you've got everything ready to go. You know who your lawyer is, you know where your case is, you know where all your documents are that you'll need to present, so that you can be ready to go and to fight your case. So again, just so that we're all on the same page, there are visas, there are green cards, there's asylum, all right? There is deportation defense, there is U.S. citizenship. Oh, I didn't even talk really about U.S. citizenship. Basically, if you've got a green card, and if you've had it for anywhere between 3 to 5 years, depending on how you got it, you might be eligible to become a U.S. citizen. I'd be more than happy to talk with you about that, and I've got a whole video series on how to file for citizenship. Okay? And then there is do nothing, and then there is be prepared for either immigration reform or for an immigration-related emergency. So those are your options. Thank you for watching. If you have questions about any one of those, and if you particularly if you have one of the visas or one of the other immigration services that my office can help you with, then feel free to call my office. We also have a free download that explains all of our office's immigration services. And yeah, we'd be more than happy to meet with you and to discuss how to apply for any one of these options if they're available to you. Okay, so thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you. And please give us a call if we can help with anything. Take care.